3 True Stories of Hauntings in Hotels. By Reddit user Enolator, this is more my friend's story than mine, though I was in the room with him. I have also posted this before on some other post, but anyhow. We were attending a conference in Phoenix and were staying at a hotel that the university booked. I was say on the John and browsing wiki about the hotel as it had a particularly distinctive decor, vintage. Turns out it's got its own colorful history, which gave us some good conversation etc. One particular night, I come back a little tipsy from a night out with a few other colleagues and zonk out listening to music. My roommate, who came back early, on the other hand gets woken up in the middle of the night to the sounds of a girl crying. He said it sounded really loud, but in the confusion of the moment he assumed it was coming from right outside the room door. He freaks out quietly in bed, so according to him, he couldn't see anyone walking around outside with the sliver of light under the door. He forced himself back to sleep. Now, this was slightly creepy by itself, but not terrifying. The terror hit us after our discovery only a few months ago. We looked up the wiki page again and realized it was built over an old orphanage. Supposedly, a well-known ghost is of a little girl that visits some of the rooms. That little girl was crying from inside the room. It's still giving me shivers now because I can still remember the layout of the room. There weren't many corners, and with the blackout blinds, it's pitch black. The only place someone could have stood without blocking the light from under the door is between our 2 beds. The image that comes to my over-imaginative mind is just a little ghost girl crying right next to the bed. Great, now I can't sleep. By Reddit user I Run Far, one of my brothers worked security in one of New York City's most upscale hotels. The security desk received a frantic call during one of his night shifts. A guy was calling, all freaked out, that his wife was in the bathtub and was not breathing. My brother and another security guard rushed upstairs to the room. Sure enough, they found a woman in the tub and she was unresponsive. My brother and the other guard got her out of the tub and attempted CPR. In the interim, during resuscitation attempts, the NYPD arrived. They told my brother to stop CPR because the lady was obviously dead and in their opinion, had been for a couple of hours. The husband was questioned extensively. He told law enforcement that he and his wife had a fight earlier in the evening. He went out on his own, and when he came back, his wife was in the bath. He says he went to bed at that point, but later became concerned when his wife didn't come to bed. Privately, among all those present, the general consensus was that the husband had something to do with it, but it could not be proven. A couple of weeks later, the room was again made available to guests, and of course the incident was not mentioned. A woman who frequently stayed at the hotel made a reservation for a week and was assigned to that room. She was the first person to stay in the room since the incident. She came to the front desk first thing in the morning, very upset and with all of her luggage in tow. She said that she was canceling the rest of her reservation and that she would never be staying in the hotel again. She said that she did not sleep the entire night and that the room was haunted. No one at the hotel had mentioned to her what had previously transpired in the room. While my brother worked there, every guest who stayed in the room called about strange happenings and many asked to be switched to another room. By Reddit user Meaveshand, this happened 2 years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. My sister, Mikan, is really obsessed with all things paranormal, to the point where she owns things like EVPs and thermal cameras. Anyway, we were driving to my grandparents' house one day. They live about 3 to 4 hours away by car, and my sister, being my sister, brought all of her ghost hunting equipment along. We left our house at 9 or so at night, so halfway through the drive we brought up Google Maps and drove to the nearest hotel to stay the night instead of being tired on the road. We checked in, and everything seemed pretty normal for a while. Me and Mikan got separate beds in one room, my bed being on one side of the room next to a wall, and hers being on the other side next to a closet. I was sitting on my bed with my laptop when I see my sister jolt from the corner of my eye. When I looked at her, I saw her staring at the closet. She opened her bag and brought out an EVP, or a spirit box, and opened the closet. Obviously, at this point I was pretty freaked out and asked her what she was doing. She said that she felt a chill on her arm, as if there was a breeze inside the closet. She turned it on and was asking things like, "Who are you? And did you touch me?" At this point I was standing beside her completely freaked out. My sister started walking around the room still asking it questions, but there weren't any responses. I asked her to turn it off because I was scared, and just as she was about to, we both heard a female voice say what sounded like the word pretty. We both had our backs turned to the closet at that time, and when we turned we saw one of Miken's dresses that was hung up, now lying on the ground. We bucked it out of there and ended up spending another $45 on another room. We went back to get our stuff in the morning, but we were still pretty shaken. In my opinion, this woman's spirit didn't seem too threatening, but my sister still hasn't worn that dress to this day. Yet she refuses to get rid of it as a constant reminder of what happened. She actually got a tattoo last year of the number 23 on her wrist, which is the number of the room we were staying in.